that would bring us to the Indiana Pacers. Had a fairly eventful offseason. They're another team that's just like with Buddy Hield and Miles Turner still on this roster. This just feels a little futile. But so their notable moves, they signed DeAndre Ayton to a 4-year, $133 million offer sheet. Phoenix immediately matched it. They drafted Bennett Mathurin at number 6. They drafted point guard Andrew Nembhard at number 31 and signed him for 4 years, $8.6 million deal. They acquired Kendall Brown, the number 48 pick from Minnesota, for a 2026 second rounder, the least favorable of Indiana, San Antonio, and Miami's, I think it ends up being. They picked up O'Shea Brissett's team option, no brainer decision there. Signed Jalen Smith to a 3-year, $15.1 million contract. It includes a player option on the final season. And they also, as of right now, guaranteed him a starting spot. And then they traded Malcolm Brogdon to the Boston Celtics for Daniel Tice, who has 2 years and $17.8 million guaranteed left on his deal. And then a team option on that final year. But they acquired Daniel Tice, Aaron Nesmith, Malik Fitz, Nick Stauskas, Jawan Morgan, and Boston's 2023 first-round pick, top 12 protected. They then, when you look at their notable exits, TJ Warren signed with Brooklyn. They waived Dwayne Washington Jr. as a way to create money to finish up the Ayton offer sheet. He then signed with Phoenix, ironically. Lance Stevenson still remains unsigned. And just as a footnote, they did waive Malik Fitz, Nick Stauskas, and Jawan Morgan, who came over from that Celtics trade. What grade did you give the Pacers?
So I had this as a B back in July when I initially wrote up grades on the assumption that there was just more coming. Because the Brogdon trade had happened, the Jalen Smith deal had happened, but this was before the DeAndre Ayton was a member of the team for like 5 seconds. But I'm going to drop this to, I think I'll just go C+. You could talk me into a C, but for official purposes, I'm going C+. I don't hate them going into the season with their cap space. I think actually that might be one of the better qualities they have, because it's basically them and the Spurs with, that are kind of your buyout, or not your buyout, but your salary dumping grounds. Maybe you're going to get some picks that way. But like, I like the Mathurin pick. I think it makes sense. The Brogdon trade, I'm fine with. Jalen Smith, like we joked, I think during all of our free agent pods about how like he's my guy. Why doesn't everybody want to sign him? I'm okay at that number. I'm not super okay with guaranteeing him a starting spot, but I don't think
you could renege on that. I found it funny that I had to throw it in there that they guaranteed him a starting spot.
I mean, I would have done it, but I'm not super rational about Jalen Smith. Yeah, I'm gonna go C+. I just the whole Ayton thing felt weird to me, because it seems like if you're gonna sign him to the offer sheet, you had to have thought for a second that maybe the Suns weren't going to match. And it seemed very clear, or at least the Suns maybe smoke screened it really well, but it seemed clear that like that was never a possibility once they matched immediately. So I guess I just wonder what else maybe could have been done with that cap space that I guess they were saving. I think a Miles Turner trade would have made some sense, but then like, how long have we been saying that? So it's just kind of uninspiring on balance. I think they did move Brogdon at the right time, and I'm okay with that return for it, just for a number of reasons. His health being so iffy, the potential that like he's just a really bad contract, even though the number's not huge, if he has another season like last one or even worse in terms of availability. And it's just give Halliburton the keys, I think, is the other thing that I'm very good with based on how he finished the season. So I don't know. I'm just kind of talking in circles, but it just feels like average to a little bit above average to me. Because it does seem like maybe there was some funky like miscalculations in their like overall plan of what we're going to do with our resources this offseason.
Yeah, I was close to you. Again, you've been kinder to me. I gave them a C.
Yeah.
A lot of it was, I don't have a problem with the Jalen Smith contract. I just want to make that clear. I find it weird that Jalen Smith got a player option.
Yes.
But that, again, they paid him basically as much as they could pay him too, given that his team option had been declined. And he played well for them. So I have zero issues really with that contract. I don't have any problem with the Malcolm Brogdon trade. I do find it funny. There are a lot of Pacers fans that were in comments of mine and others where we were looking at when we were coming up with trades for Malcolm Brogdon. There were Pacers fans that really thought that they were going to get like a top 10 pick for Malcolm Brogdon, and they didn't. They got a top 12. It's like a mildly protected first from a team that's going to finish in the 20s anyway. Right. And you got to take back like that's why I mentioned the value of the Daniel Tice contract is like 2 years it'll be less than mid-level exception money now. When you kind of already have all these bigs on the roster with Isaiah Jackson, Gogo Batadze, Miles Turner is still there. Jalen Smith, starter, Jalen Smith, excuse me. Also, and then the Ayton offer sheet. I don't have a problem that they did it.
No.
But like, you waived Dwayne Washington Jr., who was like a caps lock shooter, and look, the rest of your roster, it's like not even peppered, it's brimming with guards. So it's not a huge opportunity cost, but you didn't put any like extras on the Ayton offer sheet, like a player option, a trade bonus. I know like front load it to make it somehow less palatable for Phoenix. I know Herb Simon typically hasn't done business like that, but Phoenix had all the time in the world to sign him. This feels like they were doing a favor for Ayton's agent, who is Bill Duffy. And my other issue here is that how many times have you just like given the fuck you sign to Miles Turner at this point? And I don't know that this will absolutely factor in, but this is someone who is going to be a free agent. He's extension eligible. I imagine that I suppose the Pacers could bowl him over with an offer to where he would sign it. Or maybe he actually looks at this roster now and says, well, there might be an opportunity for me to do things on offense that I couldn't. And look, probably, let's be frank, shouldn't have been doing when Domas Sabonis was on the team. And I like his fit next to Halliburton and Benedict Mathurin, who I think was a fantastic pick. I had Benedict Mathurin higher on my board than Shaedon Sharpe. I would put that with the caveat of I get like shin deep into the draft. So let's just see how that pans out. But I don't understand why then you gave him the offer sheet at all if it was so palatable for Phoenix to immediately match it like that. And what was the intel you had? Because we know NBA teams are informed enough. With all of that said, I do respect that they have decided that this is at least from the outside looking, like this is a rebuild. And the thing I wanted a quick correction on here. I gave Andrew Nembhard to two teams, RJ Nembhard to two teams. They have Andrew Nembhard is who they signed to that 4-year deal. So just a quick correction there. But I just like, I respect that they've chosen to actually rebuild, which is something that Herb Simon has really avoided. And I'm not saying that any of the moves that they made were detrimental, but it just feels it's all very average. I don't think they won any single moves that they've actually made. Like maybe the Nembhard, the number 31 pick, maybe that pans out as like this bargain contract for the team. But the Ayton offer sheet, I failed to see what the upside was for them. And I really thought when they offered it that there was just going to be something attached that made it a little bit harder to digest for Phoenix. And the fact that it didn't, and then what message does that send to Miles Turner? Have you somehow damaged his trade value because you so clearly don't figure a future with him involved at this point? I mean, it's gotten to the point where there was like a huge, I won't even call it a subset, but a very large portion of Lakers Twitter was, I was having arguments with that Miles Turner's worth more than a second round pick to trade for. And I'm not blaming that on the Pacers. That's clearly just a disconnect in certain fans that live in La La Land. But like, what are you doing here? And why is he? I'm not going to be trade him for the sake of trading him. I do believe that some of this business, again, is being held up by Kevin Durant and Donovan Mitchell, but you're not directly involved in either of those sweepstakes. Although I would make the case that if Indiana wanted to, I could support a Halliburton, Donovan Mitchell backcourt if anybody cares about that. So I respect the direction. I just think it was a very average offseason for a team that, when you look at how much cap space they still had, could have been a lot more aggressive. And I do recognize that what really could change this is, what do they wind up doing with the cap space? Do they fold it over at the trade deadline into something that a team that's looking to get off money in advance of free agency, or just for some reason? Or do they win the move that includes Buddy Hield and or Miles Turner in it? There's a level of incomplete here. I also just feel like there shouldn't be, given all the tools that they had at their disposal this summer.
Right. Yeah. Incomplete is definitely at play here. I just wonder, I wonder what Miles Turner's trade value is. But the only thing that's for sure is that it's lower than it was a year ago and then 2 years ago, which is about how long the trade whispers had kind of been swirling around. So
he might be the longest tenured mentioned in trades without getting traded player in the league. I'm trying to think, is there anyone else that's like,
no, he's got the belt, because like it was him and Dame in there for a little bit and Beal for a little bit, but like
Beal for sure, Beal.
But this is, I mean, not only is he like the longest tenured guy, he's also the guy that you could just talk yourself into fitting on every team. Remember how easy that is, and how often you just say, like, who would really help? The Hornets. Like, the Hornets were always the team, right? Just get him in there.
They still might be the team.
They may still be the team. That's right. No, I just wonder, this is another thing where I think part of like us not feeling super great about the whole situation is due to like what Indiana did not do 18 months ago, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
Because like they're just in this situation that they didn't need to be in. If you're gonna trade Turner, and clearly they've entertained the idea for a very long time, just fucking do it. Because now he's an expiring contract, and yeah, he's worth more than a second rounder, I think. But the longer this goes on, the less valuable he becomes, just because he's going to be, unless they extend him, which I don't. I mean, I don't think that's
That would
likely.
be honestly the most hilarious outcome.
Would he sign it? I mean, I think I'd
I
rather
would look
just
at like if they came at a $30 million a year extension.
well,
Well, actually, he can't even go that high because of how much he's being paid. So that's the other thing. He's at, what is he, 18 million this year? So he probably doesn't even sign one because a 120% raise off of that, maybe that, like if he liked the team, maybe, but I can't imagine he's super happy. And I don't want to be I'm really trying not to ascribe his feelings to this, but how many times he was basically sent to Boston at one point.
right. Well,
He did
I
an
just
interview where he admitted that. So again, I like the Pacers' direction. So it's like, again, a C is not super critical. And I wanted to throw this to you is if they wind up doing the deal where it's they take on Russell Westbrook and they waive him and they're sending out Buddy Hield and Turner and they're getting back, how many of the Lakers picks would you need them to get back to like that deal for them? If they even just got 27 unprotected, is it something you consider at this point? Because you're like, well, Buddy Hield's contract is, I don't view it as a substantial net negative, but I get why, unless you're a team like the Lakers who should want Buddy Hield at that number, I can see why it's not part of the appeal. If I'm the Lakers, I probably would give up the 2 first-round picks for Buddy Hield and Turner. And if the Pacers did that move, that trade is gonna it's gonna skyrocket for me. And again, it's not so much that Miles Turner is still on this roster as the Ayton extracurriculars here that just did not add up in the end.
Yeah, I'm doing. If you're giving me both of those Lakers first, I'm doing that in a heartbeat, and the Pacers get an A because I don't think there's anything more valuable than like a few years down the line Lakers picks right now. So
the only thing I'll say is that we probably might have felt the same way before LeBron James just decided to sign with them, and then before Anthony Davis forced his way. Here's the question though, would you do it for the one? There could be other, maybe they include Austin Reeves or whatever, but would you do it for the one unprotected Lakers pick?
I think I would, only because it seems clear that like Turner is just not worth a first on his own, and because that would have happened by now, I assume. And he's not going to be on the team next year. This seems like the other clear thing. So you're sort of just, I mean, it's not really truly accurate to think of it this way, but I'm giving up Hield for, the privilege of buying out Russell Westbrook and getting what I think is going to be a super valuable first. So I'm like kind of messing with the hypo a little bit, but like if I'm like jumping up and down. One of those 2 firsts, I think I still do it.
Here's my issue. I think I need something else on the Pacers because I think you're sending out the 2 most valuable players in that deal.
Oh, no question.
So why are you can they have to include like a 26 swap then? So like It just needs to be something, but I might do it anyway if you're that much of, and look, if you're Kevin Pritchard and the front office, you might just be like, well, this sends the message that like, hello job security, because we need some time to see how this stuff plays out since we're clearly going to be so bad. And now you've set yourself up for, okay, I still think the Pacers will be not a playoff team this year, even if they stand pat, but now you've ensured that you'll be even worse, get another high pick in there, have some of these future assets built up, like predominantly that Lakers 27 pick. So I might do it if I'm very much committed to like this long-term rebuild, but it feels like they deserve to get more because maybe I'm just too high on Miles Turner. Maybe I'm too high on Buddy Hield.
Well, we're certainly not too high on Russell Westbrook. We can agree on that.
It's interesting because if you just put him on a team with 4 shooters who could all defend, that team might actually still be really good. But you know how specific a set and impossible a set of circumstances that is?
I'm out. I'm done. I want to take my lap on calling that Westbrook acquisition just ridiculous last year, and nothing has changed. I just like you can't win. You can't win with them, I don't think. But we're not doing the Lakers. So
we're also done with the Pacers. You're done with Russell Westbrook, and we're done with the Pacers.